Today we're talking about the Radiohead song Optimistic, a song that used to represent how I felt about the future of my startup handbag business. So basically this is an excellent example of how droning a note over different pieces of chords will give you like a really big open sound with kind of wide spaced intervals, right? So first of all, we're in drop D, so you gotta tune the low E string down to a D, right? And basically it's just kind of these little pieces of chords that repeat themselves. So we're gonna start with your middle finger on the 8th fret of the A string and your pointer finger on the 7th fret of the G string. And now if we kind of strum the top 4 strings, or the lowest 4 strings, we get this kind of big open chord, right? So what's actually happening is this D is going to be droning over the chords that we're going to do, right? So it's going to be kind of, we're going to hit that first note. Okay? So we kind of establish the tonal center right off the bat, and then we follow it up with this little chord. And the notes of this chord right here are an F, and a D, okay? So when I see those two notes, I automatically think of a D minor, like a D being a root note, because here's our tonal center, and an F being its minor third. So we could see that representative of a D minor chord without an A, okay? But without that A note, that kind of leaves it open to interpretation, because we could also see it as the F being the root note, and the D being like a suspended third, like if you have like an F chord with a D. That's what's beautiful about Radiohead as a band and why they're one of my favorite bands, is because they leave a lot of things kind of open to interpretation, and everybody in the band can do their own thing, and that's why they have such a cool sound, right? So we've got this kind of D drone, and then we're just gonna move it back 1 fret, okay? But if you look at the shape, right now we have a 1 fret spacing between the two. We're still gonna track on the same strings, but now we're gonna make it 2 frets. So now I've got 7A and 5G. So I have an E and a C, but it's still played over a D. Okay, so when I think of an E and a C, I usually think of like a C major, and it's like a C in its major third, right? So if we took what we just saw from the intervals, we would get like a D minor to a C major, but that's not really how it sounds. That's the beauty of like this droning D that kind of grounds it in this kind of really cool way. All right, now we're gonna do the exact same thing, except we're gonna repeat it 2 frets higher than where we started. Okay, so instead of, we're gonna go to the 10th fret of the A string and the 9th fret of the G string. So here, if we look at the notes, it would be a G and an E, okay? So again, I see a G and an E, and maybe I think of like the first couple notes of an E minor chord, or maybe I think of the last 2 notes of the C major chord. But again, it's over this D, so it kind of has its own sound because of that drone. It's definitely not like an E minor or a C chord, and then the same thing back here. Okay, and the thing about this right here, you can kind of tell that there's resolution there. And why is that? Because our notes are F sharp here, and then another D. So we have a D, an F sharp, a D, and a D. And for that, there's really no debate that that's just kind of like a D major chord, a D root note and its major third, right? So that's kind of like a very creative way to resolve something without the kind of, I don't know, the kind of traditional D major chord to kind of end there, right? So again, we've got the whole thing. See, if you end on that D, it's just kind of like lame at that point. Huh? And again, that's why I think you notice I'm really kind of hammering that thing to get that tonal center there. So it's just kind of like an interesting thing that you can use to experiment with maybe different tunings, or even if you're in just regular standard tuning, you can drone like open E, and then maybe use kind of pieces of chords centered around E to create that tonal atmosphere. But again, just a great example of an awesome band using kind of creative chord voicings and different tunings to get a really nice open sound.